there was a hadith that came up that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that if you help someone in this world, Allah will help you in the hereafter.
Yes.
And if you relieve a problem for someone in this world, Allah will relieve a problem for you in the hereafter. I gotta lower my ego, and I have to go and maybe ask someone for help. We have components of our mind, our body, our soul, this concept of nafs, which is our lower self. And these things, if we don't understand them, and we only say mind, 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 we get lost. All right, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Imam al-Anbiya al-Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. SubhanAllah, there have been constant terms thrown out through the last 5 to 10 years. Epidemic, pandemic, and these things often circle around the idea that there are health-related issues that have spread globally. From these different terms, one that has become commonplace is this idea of an epidemic within mental health. We have seen individuals, young and old, male and female, struggle with understanding why their mental health has been challenged now more than ever. Muslims are not safe from this either. Many Muslims come to see me in my office hours and others speaking about situations in their lives that very much mirror anxiety, depression, so on and so forth. In order to navigate this conversation today, alhamdulillah, we have Brother Ali Qadri, Ustad Ali Qadri. Just a bit of a background, Ali Qadri actually is no stranger to this masjid, has been volunteering here and served in a board member capacity as well for pretty much as long as I can remember. Educationally, he graduated from UIC with a degree in psychology and then went to NEIU, Northeast Illinois University, where he completed his master's in therapy and counseling. Currently, he works as a senior manager, at Deloitte. So he's a consultant there, or he works there, but also is able to serve the community in a capacity as a counselor as well. Alhamdulillah, recently he started his social media presence called A Present Heart. A Present Heart.
And I need friends on there. So
yes,
I'm hoping you all will find me on there.
So alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair for joining us today. Just to begin right away, how did you get into psychology? Because our family, he's my cousin, our family doesn't go into psychology. Well, I guess my wife did, but our family doesn't go into psychology. So how did that even begin?
SubhanAllah. I didn't expect that question, but that's a
I told you,
question.
We're not going to go on script.
I love it. That's actually even better. So, I want to say for me, the journey started back in high school. So I got thrust into the president position of MSA. Niles was Quran study.
Yes.
Was not ready for it. Your sister was my backup president, so her and I did it at that time. Now, I was a computer lab nerd. I wouldn't even have any friends. I didn't know how to public speak, but a friend of mine pushed me, and then they did votes, and alhamdulillah, I got selected for it. Now, in that process, there was a lot of people that would come and they would need help and they would need advice. And I happened to end up taking one of my gen ed classes in high school for psychology, and I was like, I really like this field. And so what I was learning, I was able to apply helping some of the kids that were coming to me. And from there, that kind of passion developed.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there was one thing that really set it all off. So I was listening to the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, and there was a hadith that came up that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that if you help someone in this world, Allah will help you in the hereafter.
Yes.
And if you relieve a problem for someone in this world, Allah will relieve a problem for you in the hereafter. And I was like, khalas, like if I can do something where almost selfishly helping people helps myself in the akhirah, then inshallah this counseling route or doing psychology will be it. And it was a really tough conversation to have with my parents. And I told them, look, this is just the best thing, we need it, blah, blah, blah. So there was a lot of back and forth.
Yes.
But eventually they saw that I really wanted to do it and that I was doing it and that there is khair in it. They weren't happy at all about it, but I continued nonetheless, and alhamdulillah, with their dua, I was able to continue. Took a brief pause between my bachelor's and my master's to go and study the Islamic side of counseling, and then come
where
back.
Was that at?
I did that in Yemen, in
Yemen,
Quadri.
okay.
Yeah, so I spent 7 months there.
And what does that look like?
Oh my gosh, it is very rural.
Okay.
No electricity, no water, and this was back in 2008, and so a lot less amenities at the time. A simple life, but a life connected.
Okay.
And so it's dusty roads and very simple living, but alhamdulillah, that's where it was.
So what does Islamic psychology look like? Because we hear psychology often in the Freudian lens or the Western lens, but we don't hear from the Islamic perspective.
And that's, I think, the thing that's most important, because in the Islamic lens, one of the things that we look at, and that's why part of my choosing the heart as the thing, I could have chose mind, I could have chose other things, but we're heart connected.
Yes.
Our soul resides in our heart, and our heart is what should lead us. And so for us as Muslims, having the idea and understanding that we do have a mind, and we will have challenges, but that our heart and our spiritual component plays a big role on our mental health and well-being. So in Islamic counseling and psychology, one of the things that we look at isn't just the mental state and things that we can have there, but also the spiritual state, and more specifically, how you're sitting with yourself inside.
Okay.
So there's concepts within it like meditation, which is known as muraqabah, and taking self-account and sitting with yourself. And those things have a large effect. So I think it's important to understand that Islamic counseling or psychology brings in the lens of looking at yourself from a spiritual perspective as well as a mental perspective.
A lot of people would probably say this sounds like some leftist, woke, apologist Muslim jargon. How would you respond? Because we don't see the Sahaba radiallahu anhum getting counseling or struggling with depression or anxiety, or do we, for that matter?
Yeah. So I mean, it's good to understand that, because even when we look at the Prophet ﷺ himself, who's our guiding example of everything that we see happen, right? The Prophet ﷺ went through many different stages.
Yes.
And we hear Am al-Huzn a lot, the year of sorrow. The time that the Prophet ﷺ lost his beloved wife and his uncle, and the Prophet ﷺ went to Ta'if to try to preach the message. And we know some of the things that happened to the Prophet ﷺ, and how even in those times that he is our example for a reason, because even despite all of the sadnesses and everything he's going through, he still showed us how to go through it. He didn't not get sad, he got sad. He got happy, he had emotions. And just like the Prophet ﷺ, many of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum had moments of anxiety, moments of fear, and those things exist. So it's not that they didn't, but we don't talk about them enough to be able to appreciate them in our settings. So it's not a foreign concept. Even the Prophet ﷺ taught us a lot of ways to be able to look at ourselves internally through way of adhkar and dhikr. So there's this concept called mindfulness. And have you guys heard of mindfulness? Do we know what mindfulness is? So mindfulness, right, is the idea and the concept of being aware of what you're doing. So the Prophet ﷺ was someone that was so intentional in everything that he did. And the importance of intention. Now, we know that that's like one of the first hadith we hear, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, right? Like that's one of the ones that we learn. But the importance of intentionality in the way that the Prophet ﷺ walked, talked, how he ﷺ did miswak before salah, how he interacted with people. There's so many sunan, but the Prophet ﷺ had like a dua for almost everything. Going to the bathroom, every single thing he taught us, intentionality. Because when you seed intention and you are doing that, you become what? Mindful. And that's what mindfulness is to become aware, to become present, so that we're not behind in the past or we're not in the future, forward. And so intentionality and what the Prophet ﷺ taught us are some of the things that I think help us to be more aware of what we're doing and how we're behaving, which we need.
If historically speaking, are there any names that stand out from the scholars of history that would speak about Islamic psychology?
There are. And so for me, who I studied the books of was Imam al-Ghazali.
Yes.
And we studied from his Ihya al-Ulumuddin, and my teacher taught from him. But there's so many other, and one of the things, my memory isn't sharp enough to say it, so you might be able to remind us of some of the names. But there's so many names, and even the first hospitals or the mental hospitals that existed came in Islamic rule and Islamic times. And this is where the concept of that even emerged.
Oftentimes we see people become hesitant about addressing this because they think, just read more Quran, you'll be better. Do more zikr, you'll be better.
Yeah.
And a lot of people fall into that trap and think to themselves, oh, maybe I should just read more Quran and I'll be better, etc.
Yeah.
Or, in this topic I don't want you to address yet, they'll say, evil eye, jinn, black magic. Are those always the answers to this situation?
You know, it's a really good question because that comes up so often. And we hear it in almost every interaction that we have. And I'm sure with you, especially as you have folks come to you, you end up seeing this a lot. The reality is there's a spiritual component that we do not want to take away, right? Like, I think something that's really important for all of us to know is that spiritually speaking, we know that sin affects us and puts a darkness on our heart. And we know that when we do adhkar and things of that nature, it helps us, bring in light. Yeah. And so one of the things that I saw even in the flyer was that there's, I forgot what it was called, but it was navigating the stresses, but it talked about light in low light. And I really found that fascinating, the title of the event, because the reality is every single one of us, from when we were born, Shaitan has vowed to attack us from every direction and to put us into darkness. And the reality of light is that in anything that we do spiritual, from the Quran recitation, in the adhkar, all of these things bring in a spiritual light that our body needs and our soul needs to feed on. So yes, if we're struggling, Quran, prayer, all of these things are things that we should be doing, but they're not the only thing that we should be doing, but they're a very important component. So we talked about how there's a spiritual component, and the spiritual component gets met with these things. But if we say that, Ya Allah, I need a job. Ya Allah, help me get a job. Ya Allah, help me get a job. Ya Allah, I just read 10 rak'ah salah. I didn't get a job yet. If I'm not applying, if I'm not asking people, I'm not putting myself out there to get the job, prayer alone will not let us do that, right? So the whole concept of tying our camel and to be able to take a step, and Allah will take two, to do our part, and I think that's one of the most important things. So prayer and Quran is a very important thing. I don't want to take that off the table. It has to be on the table, but it doesn't solve the issues. So if I have an issue with my partner, if I'm married, or if I have an issue with my boss at work, just praying about it can sometimes have an effect. But if I don't talk about it, if I don't bring up the thing that needs to be addressed, then I'm not taking care of the actual aspects of it. We can't just say, Ya Allah, have my boss, get sick and not show up. Or, that doesn't solve the problem. So one of the things too, on top of just the Quran and the spiritual thing, that I feel that I'm seeing amongst us all is the ability to handle challenges for us has diminished very, very rapidly.
Resiliency is going.
Resiliency is going, yeah. And the grit, the ability to kind of power through and understand, yes, sometimes I will have bad days. It's diminishing more and more and more. They say that 44% uptick in 5 years in the amount of anxiety and depression cases that ERs are seeing now. And amongst the younger generation and populace, we're also seeing a recession in friends, that we're not having friends. We're seeing isolation. People are a lot more isolated. When we have things come easy, on the phone, whatever I want I can get. When that happens, our ability to meet challenges starts to diminish, and that's a huge problem. And
It's interesting you're saying that, because like my side job is training, so I go to the gym. In a lot of articles now, they begin to, so one of the reasons I started working out again, I left it for a while, was because I became depressed, and I felt depression and anxiety. Being imam before, really carrying the, I don't know, may Allah reward all of you how you therapists do it, because sometimes just, it's a heavy toll on the mind, on the body, on the heart, on the shoulders, just everything, just thinking about what people are going through.
Right.
And so my wife identified it right away, and she's a therapist, and she's also a scholar. And interestingly enough, her clinic is called Sound Heart. So all you guys have this hearts thing.
Hey.
And then when my spiritual mentor recognized it as well, kind of the two from the most important people in my life, they saw it, there must be truth to it. So one of the things that I found was exercise. Was beneficial. And I don't want to get into this too much. I just want to talk about the grip part for a moment.
Right.
And as I was exercising, working out, and I was sort of rediscovering why I loved it, I started reading about it. So I became a trainer as well, so I had to study. And one of the things that research shows is that while cardiovascular workouts, HIIT, all these trainings have benefit, they found specifically weight training helps psychologically more than the others, although all of them have benefit. And one of the theories behind it is that you have to literally push a weight off you, or literally have to carry a weight so you feel like you've accomplished it. Because cardio is, oh, I've lost weight, I've lost this. But weight training, you're actually pushing a weight, and then you're actually making quote-unquote gains, and that actually feeds the confidence of the self.
Right.
Now, anyway, that was just a tangent. Before I get into some of the questions that your response brought to my mind, one thing I want to ask is that you're speaking about body, soul. What are the components of a human being? Because I see you, this is what I see. But obviously we're going to much more than that. So what are the components of a human being? What are we made of?
Oh, you can answer this question better than me. But let me take us back a little, because I think the point you brought up about the physical fitness piece on mental health is a very, very integral piece. Like, if we're not moving and we're not doing more for our bodies, then we're not focusing on our mind. Like, it's a very important thing for you all to know that if you want to help take care of your mind, you start with taking care of your body. And so the piece that you mentioned about physical training and strength training specifically in reference to grit, they say that when you take care of yourself physically, then it teaches your mind that you're important and that you're prioritizing yourself. And so that kind of concept, I think, is important, because if a lot of the clients that I have, I ask them what their physical activity is. There's a few things that we look at. And I'll come back to your question.
No, don't come back to your question. Go with this for now.
Physicality is one of the things that we look at. So if you come in and you're talking about, I'm depressed, I'm feeling anxious, something or another, one of the questions we'll ask you is, are you moving? What's your physical activity like? Are you going to the gym? Why? Because of the research showing the profound effect that that has. So before I teach anything else, breathing, meditation, any of that, I ask about physical fitness. Because once we can start that, then everything else starts to change much more dramatically. So it's very, very important to get someone who, if yourself you're feeling a little down, start moving. It's showing that I'm doing something. The second I do that, my mind is going to start to realize we're doing something. We're changing it up. And we start to then build upon it. The second thing we ask in kind of intake, what's going on in your life, is what's your social interaction like, your social support? Do you have family? Do you live with family? Do you have friends? How often are you hanging out with them? Study and research shows that social support is an anchor for us to be able to maintain ourselves and our cognitive abilities. One of the things that my cousins and I used to do when we were younger, in this college age, in the young professional age, because we have a lot of challenges at this time, is we would sit down and we'd talk about it. You know, and that went a long way, because we felt heard, we felt listened, and there was a place that we did it, but we did it in person. It wasn't just through text, it wasn't through that. We had a chance to just sit down, be vulnerable to one another, and to actually do that, which is something that is not happening anymore.
Yeah, it's something that we would, in a good way, have good jealousy towards you, because although we're only 2 years apart,
Yeah.
I'm like 28, you're 26.
Right.
So I was in limbo between am I in your group or am I in the older
Right.
group, because there was no one my age. But we would notice, because I ended up being with them more, that you guys really had that strong circle.
Yeah.
And it seems to really have given you guys confidence, support, a sense of belonging, maturity. There's a lot that came from it.
There was a lot that came from it. But you know what was nice too, right? So you bring up the fact that we had levels.
Yes.
What was really nice, and I think that we all need to have this, right? Whether it's in our families or whether it's within our friends or our friend group or in the community, we're always going to have someone that's older than us
Yes.
or ahead of us in something.
Mm-hmm.
And the importance of understanding that I got to lower my ego, and I have to go and maybe ask someone for help. So you mentioned you do physical fitness.
Yes.
I'm trying to bench press 300 pounds. I know you bench press 300 pounds, mashallah. You do more, I know. But I want to get to that. So I would come to you and I would ask for you for advice in training on that. Why? Because I can benefit from what you know. And so similarly for us, we got to see what our older cousins were doing,
Yes.
our older siblings are doing.
Yes.
What did they get in trouble for? What worked, what didn't work? And to come to you all for advice. So I think one of the things that's important for us all to do in mental health and in wellness, right? Like one of the things I want to take from this is that it's just mental. It's not just a mind thing. So to your question, like we have components of our mind, our body, our soul, this concept of nafs, which is our lower self. And these things, if we don't understand them, and we only say mind, we get lost. Because the mind is only one part of this. Have you guys ever, heard this voice in your head that talks, narrates? Do you know what I'm talking about? We all have it, right? But that's just our awareness, right? And we can be aware of our awareness. You mentioned your teacher, Sheikh Hussein. He mentioned something that I always loved, which was, imagine that you are in a game on this earth, and you are the player. What is it, NPC? No, NPCs are the non-playable characters. What's the main character? We just call it main character? Okay. Hey, I need to know the lingo, guys, so you have to help me with it. So he mentioned that imagine yourself that we're in a game, and you're seeing yourself in all of the actions that you're making. Now, the person that's having that awareness is the one that's having that control of this main character. And if we look at our lives and we sort of gamify our experience in a way to say, while I'm going through some challenges, is this going to help me level up, or is this going to bring me down? How am I going to approach it? So if we can take ourselves and we can gamify an experience, and I'm not saying, I don't want to belittle anyone's experience if they're going through mental hardship or illnesses. So, it's not that. If we're having challenges or tribulations, I'm trying to talk at more that level, not at the clinical level. That if we can take ourselves and extract ourselves from, oh my God, woe is me, I'm feeling this, I'm having this, and just going into this rut by pulling ourselves out and looking at it as, oh no, I have the joystick, I have the control, we are now able to give ourselves a perspective change, and perspective change is something that's absolutely vital for us in doing things differently.
Okay. Let's look at perspective for a moment, especially in this generation.
Yeah.
But throughout all the age groups that you are able to interact with, what are the most common challenges, difficulties, struggles, illnesses that you're seeing? Specifically, I'm interested in their group.
Yeah. So their group specifically, your group, anxiety and depression has become an all-time high.
Can you define anxiety and depression for a moment?
So, and this is a good question. So there's markers that we look at in the DSM, the diagnostic manual, that helps us assess at what level we actually are. And there's different levels of depression and different levels of anxiety. Generally, we've seen the levels rising throughout this age group. In what we would normally face, the anxiety and depression levels would be lower, but now we're seeing that rise. So to understand the two, right? Because we hear anxiety a lot and we hear depression a lot. And anxiety I want to say sometimes people just look at it as it's just I'm in a constant state of worry or in a constant state of fear. And yes, those are some kind of markers to be able to help us identify what anxiety is. But even a racing mind, a mind that's constantly overthinking things, or someone who is actively doing things and trying to stay busy because they know that if they aren't, they don't want to meet what happens in their real life, which is their thoughts and maybe situations at home. So anxiety manifests in different ways, but we can feel it physically manifest, and I think that's a very important thing that I want to talk about is kind of tools and techniques and things that we could all do to be able to identify it. But one of the things that with anxiety is that it's this constant inability to turn off our mind about thinking about anything. A certain thing is consuming our brainwaves over and over.
Okay, and depression?
Depression is more a depressed mood. So what we see, especially now in this time, where the sun is starting to go down earlier, we see a uptick in depression, and there's actually a term for it too called seasonal affective disorder, SAD, that comes around this time that we start to feel it, because there is a huge influence that the sun has on our well-being, and to be able to get it, so when you can get out there, get the sun. So depression is inability to be able to find joy in the things that I found joy in. I am starting to have more of a inability to laugh, play. I'm starting to just kind of become depressed in my mood. My mood is starting to come down. And so the more and more further down it gets, the harder and more severe some of that depression can become.
I see with this generation here, with all of you, that they have more connections than ever before.
Yeah.
Friends, at least whatever that label is on social media, likes, follows. So there is a connection. I don't know if it's a connection overload, but there's definitely an infusion of connection that we never had. So how would they not be sociable, or they not be, I'm not trying to make you the they, but I'm old, so I'm just going to have to put it out there. I'm a different generation. I'm Gen X, right? So it's just different. And so as a real result, I don't understand as much. You, alhamdulillah, are in this field. How could this occur when you have so much at your fingertips?
If for this too, I wanted to have some kind of stats that I looked up, because it's gotten so bad, right? So we'll come to your question, but let me read off some of these things, because I think they're important. 1 in 2 young adults say they have no one to call in a crisis. And this was a study by Harvard in 2023. So while I have all of these connections, these friends and all of that, 1 in 2, half of you feel that I can't call someone. The average number of close friends has dropped from 3 to 1.8. So close friends, right? And I think that's the part we want to pay attention to. We have a lot of friends. How many close friends do we have? And then the health risk in this is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day by having this loneliness and this friendship lack that we're having. Is that how bad of an effect that it could have on us? So to your original question, when we have all of these friends, it's something I'm really grateful for, that the internet was just coming around when we were younger, and that we made some friends online and things of that nature, but nothing like what we see now. And so I don't want to call them artificial friends, right? Because it's not that. But the superficiality of our friendships has increased to the point where there is a barrier between me and you, and it's this thing. And so you're here with me, but if we just look, right, and I don't want to pick on anyone, but if we look, oftentimes, whether you're doing a khutbah, whether there's an event, we'll find a few people on their phone. All the time. Why? Because we've become so addicted to our screens. And this is the thing, I was joking with you earlier, but my field that I do professionally as well is called user experience, UX design. And what we do is we take the psychology of human beings and we implement it into design to say, how can I get you, Saad, Sheikh Saad, to be on Instagram more by engaging you with something that's going to keep pulling you. For you, it might be some Islamic lectures that are going to pull you back. And so this is what we essentially do in our brain when we rewire it. And so if you all can understand kind of this concept that I have the ability to do this, and if I start doing it, and that's the hardest thing, is to start that first step, because once I go through that grass, if you tell yourself, it's just that, I'm just setting up that trail, once I get through it, it'll get easier and easier. And so we want to be able to conceptualize the neuroplasticity that we have to be able to understand that these are the ways that we rewire ourselves.
I'm looking before I continue.
Yeah.
Because they gave us like strict orders on time.
That's right, because people want to ask questions, and I definitely want to make sure we get a chance to do that.
I was getting the organizers.
Okay.
Then they all went out to eat.
They left us behind.
Okay.
Where's our coffee? We need to be sipping something.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So then, okay, let's look at just everyone here right now. There's certain things that we're going through. There's stressors from school.
Yeah.
Stressors from the uncertainty of post-graduation.
Okay.
Stressors from the stress that comes with searching for a spouse.
Yes.
The stress that comes in from feeling that you've disappointed your parents. Like I've gone through that. When I became, they wanted to become a lawyer.
Right,
I didn't become a
sure.
lawyer. So all these stressors, they all bring about their own burden. So a lot of people feel like they're carrying a lot.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. They don't know who with whom they should speak, what they should share. And sometimes when people are sharing, they feel like they're burdened there, so that becomes even an added burden. How then are they supposed to practically navigate a lot of what they're going through? Like, okay, fine, I feel depressed, I feel anxious, I feel stressed.
Yeah.
I accept it. What's next for me?
It's a really important question, right? And the reality is, for every single one of us, we are going through things that are difficult. Your journey and your difficulty is a difficult thing for you. It may not be for someone else, but for you it is. And it's absolutely an important part of your life. It's integral for all of us to be able to have a place to talk about it. Whether it's with an imam, whether it's with a therapist, whether it's with a friend, a family member, someone. We don't want to internalize and leave it inside. We know that internalization can be very detrimental to our health and well-being, physically causing us issues. So blood pressure increases. There's some heart studies as well on palpitations and things of that nature, but physically it starts to affect us in ways that start to cause us to have issues with our physicality. But the reality is, we know that shaitan wants what? To pick us off, right? To get us away from the pack and make you feel like there's going to be no one that understands you, and that there's no one that I need to burden.
Okay.
And this is ultimately a trick. We're being duped by shaitan to say, no, you can't go tell so-and-so because you're going to burden them. When I mentioned that hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, when you help someone, Allah helps you.
Yes.
But if I can't help you because I don't know you need help, then you're also doing me a disservice because you're not allowing me to get Jannah by being able to help you. And so I think if we don't make ourselves vulnerable to be able to reach out to someone and talk to him, not only are we doing ourselves a disservice, but we're doing a disservice to the others by not allowing them an opportunity or fursa to be able to get closeness to their Lord. So talk to someone. It's very important. And if you can't find that in your circle, whether it's your family, your friends, or your colleagues, whatever, then find someone you can. Whether it's the imam at the masjid or whether it's a therapist that we can talk to, it's very important to be able to talk to someone about your issues. But more than that, to be able to tell yourself too that whatever I have isn't beyond me. That la yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. There is going to be no burden that I give you that you cannot handle. That every single one of us will have the ability to take on what we're tested with. That Allah is not going to test us beyond our means. Now we want to internalize this message because the reality is everything that happens to us, to a believer, is good for us. Strange is the affair of the believer, that when good befalls them, they say Alhamdulillah, and when bad befalls them, they say Alhamdulillah. Our religion, my brothers and my sisters, gives such a wonderful antidote for us to stay within certain boundaries and lines. And I think it's very important for us in our mental health to stay within the lines that our religion gives us, and then to be able to understand beyond that what we need to be able to do. So we all have the ability, and we see sometimes that something bad that happened to me was actually something good for me. When I got fired from this job, I got another job that was better for me. You know, we don't know ultimately what our tribulation is. And one of the advice that the Prophet ﷺ gave us is to look at those that have less than us. In a world where we have Gaza and Sudan, none of us has anything worse than what we're seeing our brothers and sisters go through there. And so it helps us to be able to say, okay, breathe, come back. Yeah, I can get through this. There's things that are in my control, and I'm going to work on those. And the ones that are outside of my control, whose control are they in? Right? They're in Allah's control. Whose hand do you want your life in? But your Lord and Creator, from who you came to and whom you return to. That when we have that yaqeen, that is something that will help us get through some of these things, inshallah.
So we have some questions that have come in.
Okay.
Number one, how do we deal with the fallout of a very close friend group? How do we start to trust others after dealing with such a big loss?
It's a friend group that broke apart, and
maybe they broke apart, or they left this person.
Okay, so every friend group is going to have difficulty, right? And one of the things, so like Sheikh Saad mentioned, me and my cousins, we were really close. As we got older and had kids, we don't get to hang out as much and have that closeness, and we still try to stay in touch. Or, you know, someone did something, and this stuff happens. That we're going to have oftentimes in our friend groups, people will do something that they shouldn't have done that causes factions and breakups. The trick that I feel like Shaitan is doing on all of us, which is, how can I trust again? We can't look at it as a zero-sum game. One person did this and all of a sudden now I can never trust again, or I have to work back up to that. Sure, we all do at a certain level to be able to do that. But the Prophet ﷺ told us to have 72 excuses. One of the things that we don't see, husn al-dhan, right? Husn al-dhan is having a good opinion of someone else, is we see the opposite of that, su' al-dhan, which is having a bad opinion. We rush to bad opinions quicker than we rush to good opinions. And it's very important for us to try to give people opportunities and chances. Now, the Prophet ﷺ also told us, don't get bit from the same hole twice, meaning if someone did something that was egregious to you, be careful with them, and don't put yourself in that situation to let that happen to you again. But at the same time, it doesn't mean don't let yourself be put into a situation where I have to trust and make myself vulnerable again.
I'm going to be going through, trying to pair questions together.
Okay.
So a couple questions regarding addiction.
Yeah.
What is the cause of addiction, and how does someone overcome addiction? And connected to this, we have, how do you change your life and change phone addiction and every other addiction for that matter?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm lifting up on this one just because this one is getting bad. And mainly because we have access to things on our phone that is causing enormous harm. Porn addiction, and I'm just going to say it because it's just terrible, absolutely terrible, is rocking our ummah. And it's one that, like every other addiction and anything that happens, right? We're told to cut things off at the root before we even get to it, really. My mom gave this analogy. I always remember it because when she said it, I didn't understand it. She said, you know how Shaitan works is he comes to you like, if she used the analogy of a pet store. He goes into the pet store and he takes shahid, honey, asal, puts it on the wall, and he leaves. That's what Shaitan does. And I'm like, oh, okay, so what, the big deal? So she said, what happens after that? I was like, I don't know. She's like, okay, the insects go on it. The fly goes on to the honey. Then the bird comes to attack the fly. Then the cat goes to attack the bird. Then the dog. Then this. Before you know it, pandemonium. All hell is broken out there. What did shaitan do? He just gave you a waswasa.
Yes.
He just told you, look. He just told you, smoke. Just try it. It's just a sip. And we hear it all the time because we think there is no harm in it. But this is our test, right? The way to shield yourself from harm, not just addiction, because addiction is past harm. I'm now harming others at that point because you're no longer harming yourself. You have to cut it off before it even begins. You know yourself, and you know what your temptations are, and you know what your vulnerabilities are, and you know where you might fall into it. So with addictions, it's very important to fight your nafs. Let's just say for me, it's to look at something. I have to be very cognizant. Keep fighting yourself. Make dua, keep fighting yourself. Over time, just like we talked about the trail, it starts to diminish. But if we did the opposite, and we now started walking this new trail, of course, we start carving this out and getting into addiction, and then addiction has a lot more consequences to it. Phone addiction, just to talk about that, we all don't have the phone that Sheikh Saad has, we should. But if we don't, every single one of us on our phones already have digital well-being on our Android devices and screen time on our iPhones. Before you leave here, use one of your friends and just set that up for yourself. If you're at 8 hours, which is what our age group averages, maybe I come down to 6. Maybe I come down to 4. Maybe I come down to 2. See what it is, right? Like for me, I have 40 minutes of Instagram, and I hit that every day. I'm just like, man, it's bad. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's still not great. Because like you said, I'm not present. If I'm like trying to scroll or whatever, I try to leave my phone downstairs in my office when I come upstairs. But we all have to make active efforts on cutting ourselves off from these things. And these things will help us do that. And you can download other apps that help you do that. But every one of you should do something to help reduce your screen time now.
So there's a few questions here that come with family. What is Islamic perspective with cutting off family for mental health? Or how do you deal with not being able to talk with anyone at home, especially when responses are dismissive, like, you'll be fine, you're strong enough? Or there's another one with parents. How do you deal with, I just lost it, suggest dealing with a family in terms of mental health, especially with immigrant parents or parents who don't believe in quote-unquote mental health?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I want to tell you all that just like we talked about resiliency and grit, look, there's a part of this answer you're not going to like, which is we have to bear through some of it. You don't cut your family out, right? Islamically speaking, and this is why it's so important to have an Islamic perspective in counseling. Certain things are toxic and we need to cut them out and create boundaries. But the reality is our parents are there for a reason to guide us, and Allah Ta'ala likens our parents to Himself in many areas because that's the maqam and stature that they hold. So we have to give our parents ihtaram and respect. And the reality is, yes, maybe they don't have it and they're coming from an immigrant background. My parents were the same way, and Sheikh Saad just said, hey, how did you ever become that? Because my mom used to tell me, अगर पागलों के साथ जाके काम करो तो तुम भी पागल हो जाएंगे. What that means is if you go and you work with people that are mentally ill, you'll become mentally ill yourself. And so that was the perspective, right? And I tried and I used to bring that in, and I saw there's a disconnect. But understand there's a disconnect. It's okay. Maybe there's some things we won't align on. But that doesn't mean I need to cut off from them. And if they're just telling us it's going to be okay, or you feel dismissed by it, you're valid in feeling that way, right? But feelings aren't facts, they're feelings. Don't make your feeling a fact. My mom doesn't care about me. My dad doesn't care about me. No one knows what I'm going through. No, that's shaitan just trying to get you away from them. So don't fall to these things, because families are falling apart, and there's so many people that now live like hoteling. So the family counseling that I do, I'm just like, so you guys don't even have family dinner together. So we're losing connections, and we can't have that. We have to look at it as a test. Okay, they don't understand me, but Sheikh Saad understands me. I can talk to him about it. You know, there's other avenues and other people that I can. If my parents don't understand me, it's okay. They're my parents. I still have to respect them. I still have to follow them. I still have to give them their dues. Similarly with our family, siblings.
A couple similar questions. Actually, there's a lot of good questions here.
Okay.
I'm currently searching for my first full-time job. The rejections can be very stressful. How can I stay spiritually grounded and patient through this process? Similar, not exactly.
Sure.
But I've received many rejections when it comes to looking for a spouse.
Yeah.
How can I handle these rejections? So you have a couple of rejections.
Allah. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the spouse one because remember when I said there's some things that are in our control and some things that aren't. But even the job one, right? There's some things that are in our control and there's some things that aren't. So I don't want to make this about myself, but I'm just saying this to hopefully shed some light, right? So in my period of time, similar to you all, when I had just finished doing my master's degree, and I was like, this is what I'm doing, I started applying for mental health jobs. Mm-hmm. This was 2012. Obama did social service cuts. I couldn't find a good job. Mm-hmm. And the jobs I was finding, they were really tough. There was only one out of the millions that I applied for. And I literally had to leave that place. It was bad. But why I'm saying this is there's some things that you could do. Where I tie my camel, I applied to hundreds of jobs. I do this, I do that. But Allah opens the door. So when I couldn't find it in the counseling field, I started looking in IT. I looked for a year before I got a job. And the job I got was from a friend of ours who referred me in. I got the interview, I got the job. It was an hour and a half away, 2 hours almost with traffic to get there, and then 2 hours to come back. And he, 2 months later, got fired from that job. And we were both in the same position, so I felt so guilty, and you just don't know where your nasib is written. He, alhamdulillah, ended up getting a better job, but we didn't know that at the time. I felt bad, he felt bad. All I'm trying to say in all of this is whether we're rejected by a job or a person, have yaqeen that Allah has put this person away from me or this job away from me for a reason. I may not understand that reason now, but that reason is there. Just like in the story of Musa and Khidr on the boat, and the boat one is the most important one. This boat was this man who helped them get to the other side, and Khidr put a hole in that boat. Imagine that person this was his job. He provided for the whole village with this job. And all of a sudden, his job has a hole in it and is sinking. And for him, it's like, oh my God, a disaster. And if he only contextualized it with that hole, he wouldn't have known that there's something worse. The king is seizing everyone's able boats. Oh, okay, now my hole is just a hole, I can patch this up. So we have to be patient and persevere through understanding there's something better for me. Even for me, again, even on the spouse's journey, I couldn't find anyone for 2 years, 3 years, and a lot of you know me. When I'm here, I'm doing announcements, I'm from my family, all of this, right? So it's like, oh, he should be able to get married, right? Like people used to tell me that all the time. Could not find it. I was getting rejected a lot. It was hard. And then when Allah wrote for me to find my spouse and get married, alhamdulillah, I'm glad I didn't get married or be desperate enough to just tie myself to something. So give yourself some worth and know that your time is written for when it's written. Your job, your spouse, whatever it might be that you're waiting for, put it in Allah's hands and allow yourself to have patience. But do the things that you need to. Anyone that's looking for work, especially in like the IT thing and stuff like that, I'm happy to help you guys network and find things. Let's find older people in our community that we can connect you with and that we can help you with, right? So let's avail some of the resources that we have that can help us in these things, inshallah.
It's a lot more left, but
yeah.
We have, we're told a hard stop at 9:40.
Okay.
1 more minute? One more question.
All right.
It's just easier to stop and ask one more question. At least these are all anonymous.
Do we want to see if there's one in the audience that anyone has?
Here's one. Okay. How do you deal with bad mental health due to being overly empathetic? And you
Oh,
do
wow.
have, yeah.
Okay, this one is this.
And also some that are, what are some habits you recommend starting to reduce anxiety and depression? Should we start journaling for smaller things? So
Okay.
there's a few I'm trying to lump together.
Okay, so let's lump a few of those, and we'll just make it more general about kind of how to not let ourselves fall down a hole even further, okay? All right, I'm gonna ask you guys to just look around here and tell me, what do you see that's green? Just notice all the green things, okay? All the green. Look around you a little bit. Okay, now close your eyes. Everyone, close your eyes. Remember all the green things that you had. All right, now let's open them. Or actually, no, leave them closed. I bet some of you were like, okay, look, the wall is kind of green. I'm going to say that's green. Some of us saw the top of the green on the donation box. We took it. But we saw anything that kind of looked green and we made it green. Whether it was completely green or not, we did that. Okay, how many of you can tell me something red that's in the room? Without opening your eyes, but like, who saw red things? No one, right? Okay, maybe you did because you got your eyes open. You can open your eyes. But do you notice that when I asked you to tell me about a different color, you couldn't? Why? Because I was telling you to look for something particular. So it's important for us to know that the best thing that we can do for our health is to tell ourselves to look for the positives, to look for the good, to find those things within our day that we can hype up and excel. Because what our brain will do, it has a negative bias. It wants to just find all the negative things, and shaitan wants to let us see that. So to counteract all of this thing, there's something called gratitude journaling that we could do. But essentially, find 3 things every day that you can be grateful for. And you can start a text group thread, right? Like just saying, hey guys, my 3 things for today is this. And then someone else has their 3. Someone else has their 3. And we can then learn from each other. Oh, one person mentioned that they were grateful for having eyelashes. Well, that's weird. Oh, actually, no. Subhanallah wa ni'mah for having that. So we start to understand and start to see this. And the second we start doing this, we do something called scanning for the positive. And we start to now see life in that lens instead of the lens that shaitan wants to take us towards in the negative bias. So a lot of what we can do is looking for positivity, writing it down. So in journaling, if you spend some time doing that, if you spend some time even in meditation, which I wanted to teach you guys how simple meditation is, which I'm going to take 30 seconds to do that. Everyone close your eyes. Meditation is as simple as us being still. And then now I'm going to tell you to just focus on your breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Do you feel the warmth of the air coming in when you're breathing it? No, it's kind of cold. When you're breathing out, do you feel the warmth coming out? Yes. Okay, so all of these little things, right? And you can open your eyes, but did you see how just closing your eyes for a second and just being able to understand that I'm going to focus on something else rather than the racing thoughts can help you? And that's all I want you to take back. If you extend that longer and you add other things to it and sit with yourself for a little bit, it's very important for us to disconnect to reconnect in life.
Inshallah. All right. Ustad Ali, we ask Allah Ta'ala accepts from you and from your family for letting you come here. You know, it's not always easy for them to leave people behind. I'll turn the microphone over, inshallah.
I'm going to make one shameless plug, just because I started and Adil let me. So something that I've been struggling with, I didn't want to get on social media, but a lot of my clients have been encouraging me to do it. I just started it, and inshallah, I need you all to help me stay encouraged in it. Please find me. You can look up Ali Quadri on Instagram or A Present Heart and add me, and feel free to reach out to me through that if there's anything I can help you with, whether it's professionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever it will be. Inshallah, I'm happy to. And as I start to post, please do share. I guess that's kind of important, but that's my request of my young brothers and sisters. Thank you for humoring me, and Jazakumullahu khair for having me.
So just one quick thing from my end.
Yeah.
Even though this might go against your message a little.
Sure.
I'm a big proponent of going to the expert in any field. Imams are not therapists.
Yeah.
And we can cause more harm than good. So sometimes you'll come in and maybe I'll just sit and listen once, but don't expect multiple sessions. Not because we don't love you, it's just because we don't know what to do. That's not my training. You ask me to edit your paper, I'm an English teacher, I can do that. Or my imam position is there, but I'm not a therapist. And so you have to be careful. The sisters you have a little easier because your resident scholar here is a therapist by profession.
MashaAllah.
But you gotta be careful and be aware of who you go to speak.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge.
Jazakallah khair for everyone for attending, and Jazakallah khair for our viewers.